Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. My name is Nur Amalina Shakira binti Mama Hisham. My matric number 1250718. What happened when a person no longer believes in a religion, but the law continues to treat them as a follower of that religion? This question lies at the heart of Priyathaseny and another versus Pegawai Penguatkuasa AgamaJabatan Hal Ehwal Agama Islam Perak and others, a constitutional law case that explores the tension between freedom of religion and Sharia court jurisdiction under the Federal Constitution. At its core, this case concerns freedom of religion under the Federal Constitution, particularly Article 11 and the effect of Article 121 Clause 1A on the jurisdiction of the civil courts. The plaintiff challenged the continued application of Islamic law to them, claiming that they no longer profess Islam. Crucially, the plaintiff did not ask the civil court to declare them apostates. Instead, they sought constitutional declaration, arguing that the enforcement of Islamic law against them violate their fundamental liberties. The defendant responded with a preliminary objection, arguing that the matter fell entirely within the Sharia court jurisdiction. This set up the central conflict of the case, which is the constitutional right versus Sharia court jurisdiction. The first plaintiff was ethnically Malay and born as a Muslim. She claimed that she had renounced Islam about 5 years earlier and had embraced Hinduism. Despite this, she was arrested and convicted under Islamic law for apostasy and cohabitation outside lawful Muslim wedlock. She was fined 5,000 ringgit Malaysia and detained for 3 nights while awaiting remand and payment of the fine. The second plaintiff, an ethnic Indian and lifelong Hindu, converted to Islam under pressure to prevent his wife from being imprisoned. Although formally registered as a Muslim, he continued practicing Hinduism. The third and fourth plaintiff were their minor children who had been raised as Hindus since birth. This case raised several important constitutional questions. The first one, whether the civil court had jurisdiction to hear the case, the scope of freedom of religion under Article 11, what it truly means to be professing the religion of Islam, and then the religious states of the plaintiff children, and then the last one, the reach and limits of Article 121 Clause 1A. Having looked at the background and the fact of this case, we now move to the legal analysis which form the core of this dispute. This analysis focuses on how the court approached issues of jurisdiction and constitutional right, particularly under Article 11 and Article 121 Clause 1A. Jurisdiction. Article 121 Clause 1A removes civil court jurisdiction over matter within the Sharia court authority. However, the plaintiff argued that the constitutional interpretation is always the responsibility of civil courts. They were not asking the court to decide matter of Islamic law, but to determine whether their constitutional right had been violated. Therefore, they argued that the preliminary objection should not succeed. Freedom of religion. Article 11. Article 11 protects the right to profess and practice one religion. The plaintiff argued that forcing individuals to remain subject to a religion that do not genuinely believe in amounts to a serious constitutional violation. According to this view, religious freedom must be based on conscience and belief, not merely official registration. A key issue was whether formal status alone is enough to establish that a person professes Islam. The court was asked to consider a situation where conversion occurred under duress or there was no genuine belief or religious practice. The argument was that true profession of Islam requires free choice, belief, and practice. Without this element, the automatic application of Islamic law becomes constitutionally questionable. The children were minors and incapable of making religious decisions themselves. The parents exercised their constitutional right to determine their children's religious upbringing, automatically classifying the children as Muslims without meaningful inquiry was argued to violate Article 11. The court upheld the preliminary objection. The application was dismissed with cause. The core issue was whether the first plaintiff was still a Muslim. This fell within the exclusive jurisdiction of the Sharia court under state law. The constitutional questions were viewed as incidental, not central. Article 121 Clause 1A barred civil court intervention. This case highlights the persistent tension within Malaysia's dual legal system. Article 121 Clause 1A is often interpreted in a way that prevents constitutional review even where fundamental liberties are at stake. Yet the federal constitution remains the supreme law of the land, and civil court are meant to act as guardians of constitutional right. Religious identity should not be imposed solely through legal formality, without regard to belief, conscience, and personal autonomy. To conclude that civil court remains crucial in safeguarding constitutional rights. Genuine religious profession depends on belief and free will. Article 121 Clause 1A should not override constitutional supremacy. Freedom of religion under Article 11 must be meaningfully protected. The Priyathaseny case served as a powerful example of the ongoing struggle to balance religious authority and constitutional freedom in Malaysia. That's all from me. Thank you.